Hello, good morning. Welcome back and thanks for joining me. It's Judy from Thistledew Creations and I'm doing a couple of family photo tags, and I might make pockets for these ones later on. That might hold true of all of these family photo tags that I'm doing. But I started out with these printable, I guess they were like a placemat kind of thing, where it's ticking stripe. This one has number 1. The red one is just kind of the ticking stripe. And so what I've done first of all is backed them onto file folder. I'm going to see if this piece is big enough. No, it isn't. That is something I didn't take out, but I know I have a piece handy here. I just sorted through my bottom drawer, which is where I put all the reusable packaging. And I count this as packaging just because it's upcycled. So I'm going to put these down onto that first. And all I do, these were torn. I tore these with a ruler. So I should ink them first. There is a slight bit of white there. See, I think on the other one I didn't ink them first. I inked it all at once. But I will show you what I'm going to do here is, because this is a torn edge and I don't really want to lose that, I like torn edges, I'm going to glue it down and then I'm going to use my guillotine to cut it out just beyond the tear. You can see that there's a little bit of the file folder showing on the front. Not a lot, just a smidge. So I'll do this with the glue stick. I got a nasty chunk there. Get rid of that. And then, as well as that, I use the tacky glue. I go all the way around, fairly close to the edge, and then just a little squiggle in the middle. And this gives me a chance, if I need to reposition it, like move it on the cardstock, gives me time to do that. And just back and forth a little bit also helps it to find where it wants to be and stuck. To admit that it wants to be stuck. And then I'll do the same thing with the red. I don't want that black writing in there, so I'm going to go down here. As I was doing my prototypes, I was watching Gail Augustinelli doing some similar types of things. Hers weren't family photos, but doing some tags and using up scraps and stuff. Well, I'm using up a few scraps here. I'm using up this packaging, and I'm using up a few black scraps that I had, and some magazine harvest scraps. Oh, I didn't ink that. It's okay. We have one inked, one not inked. We'll live with it. When I ink around the card, I'll just make sure I get it then. Okay, so that will go in my guillotine if I just rough chop it here. And where are you, guillotine? I have a tiny one I got when my sister and I went to St. Jacob's last summer. Found this at a thrift store. So I'm just lining up the edge of the printable with this clear see-through fence, and then I'm moving it over just a smidge. So I'm not really measuring, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I have a pretty good eye. It comes with practice. If you're not there yet, just measure and mark and cut. I'm not even worried about if these are perfectly square because I'm following the printable, which I presume was square. You're not going to be able to see what I'm seeing to line it up, so you're just going to have to trust me that this is how I do it, and this it works. Okay, so that's them mounted and cut out. And then I've still got some gluiness. Make sure it's dry before I ink it. And something Wanda sent me was a glue remover. I'm just going to try it and see how it works. I just don't want to remove the printing on my printable. Okay, so then I have 2 to do, and I have them laid out here. I think they're going to go sideways this time, which is kind of neat. I think that's how I'd figured it. So I found a fairly slim picture of my great-grandfather with his taxi cab, and I thought I would surround it with some black and some music. I'm not sure. It's not going to fit that way now, so I'll put it like this way, same as the others were. Like that. And I inked around this whole photo just to make sure that that's what I wanted to do. And then what I'll do here is top down so I don't lose my layout. Glue that to the black. And then glue this to the music. I want this over so that we can still see a little bit of the ticking stripe over here. And I want that, oh no, I don't want that lower, I want this lower, like that. And then I'll take and glue the whole thing down. And I don't know why this isn't bothering me today. Maybe because I have a fan going, using the 3-in-1, and it doesn't seem to be too strong of a smell, but maybe it's just that I'm used to it too. Anyway, I'm covering up that number 1 that was part of the printable. There was just no way to keep it and have the photo anywhere near where I want it on all of these. So there's that. And then I had the word remember, and it's on blue. I'm debating whether I want the blue on here. I've got it on the other one, so maybe I'll keep it. And it can go anywhere, really. It can go down in this corner. And I like that it overlaps the photo. And then our tabs. So the tabs at the top, I'm using Tim Hortons cup wrappers so that you don't burn your hands when the coffee's too hot. So I'm just cutting straight across the corrugations and then punching a whale tail tab. And I got a bit of glue there. I don't want that glue. While I'm at it, I'll go ahead and punch another one. try to get the corrugations lined up so that they're going straight. Don't always 100% succeed, but that's my goal. And then that just folds in half and gets inked with the ground espresso. Shows up the best all around. And then glue down. I want that centered along the top. And then I'll use my crocodile. This is a Temu brand, crocodile. Hold it so it doesn't move on me. It's still not set up. Oops, I used the small hole. I want the big hole. There we go. Grab ourselves an eyelet. And that word came right to me today. I just heard Gail Agostinelli say it a few minutes ago, so that's why, I think. I didn't lose it in my brain today. This could also be a black grommet, would look good too. Eyelet. And we'll just give that a squeeze. Oh, that didn't work. I had another one do that to me. I think I haven't got it centered properly. So we'll try another one here. Oh, that one's not very good. Try this again. So to line it up, there's a little point here and here, and I just try to make sure that they're on the same rib. That's the easiest way to line it up, I found. And there are black ones here. Maybe I will try the black ones. But are they big ones or little ones? I think they're little ones. I'll stay with my silver for now. Okay. I might be using too much glue. That might be why it was not setting up, allowing me to pull it off after that much time. I was kind of surprised. Might be that less is more on this. Okay, large hole. Get my I got my finger in here. Ouch. That did not feel good. So there's my front piece and my back piece. I'll try this again. Gotta get it in the center. There, that's better. It's not perfectly centered on the tab, but such is life. We go on with it, right? I'm using the Buffalo check. So I double it over, push, I'm not doing lark's head with this, I'm just doing a knot towards the front. So just pulling it down to the front and doing a little knot. You can put a little dab of glue here if you don't want that knot to be so easy to come undone. Just be careful not to get your ribbon in that glue when you tie the next knot. Trying to get it to go out to the side, and then I'm going to do little ribbon ends on this. What do you call that? Swallowtail or something like that? And those little pieces will be saved to use in clusters and stuff like that. And what other thing? Oh, I had a bee on each one because we are the Barnhouse Bees, our family Facebook group. So I've got some bee die cuts that I got in Happy Mail. Better pull out 2. And I think that can just go up here. And I did find that using the 3-in-1, I don't know if it was just because the nozzle was a little smaller or because it's clear right from the get-go. And I just take whatever's left after I've put some on a bigger spot. Take what's left on the nozzle and spread it onto the thin pieces of card. Just sort of spreading it, not putting more. And then I always like my bees to go on an angle. Not straight up and down. Well, sometimes I want them straight up and down, but here I wanted them a little more whimsical. Now that's wanting to curl on me, but once it's dry and had a chance to sit flat overnight, it'll be good. So there's that one. And then this one is some other second cousins of mine, Angie, and I'm not sure who that is with her. I think Rick is younger, so I don't know who that is, so I'm not going to label it or anything. And I had picked out some red paper that was torn edge and the white was showing, so I've inked it with the round espresso. And I was thinking of a little bit of that and a little bit of music. And then memories. And again, I'm not sure about the blue, but that's what I have, so that's what I'm using. And I'll ink this photo. The other thing, of course, I could do is fussy cut these two, but they fit, so I'm going to leave them. Just ink it a bit. And so I think I'm just going to glue these down, because that's, I know I can see where I want them. Down in this corner. Yeah, it's kind of strange that I don't know who. I was thinking it was Angie and Rick. But it could be Icy and Dawn or something. I don't know. I'm not sure who it is, but they're cute. I could probably go back in the Barnhouse Bees where I found this picture and see who they're saying it was, I guess. I just went back through and grabbed a bunch of pictures to print. So if any of my family's watching this video and you have more family photos that you think I should do, be sure and share them either on Barnhouse Bees or directly with me, and I will get them done. I'm just working with what I have. So I don't think any of my family members are junk journalers, so these will probably be more like cabinet cards for them, where they'll put them on display in a cabinet, in their hutch, on their mantle, by their bed, whatever way they want to use them to remember their loved ones. Oh, I did the small one again. I'm still working on the grommets or the eyelets that came with this kit, but I have another whole big bead box full of them that Rami Pander sent me from out in Edmonton, I believe. That's where she lives. Oops. I always have a hard time keeping that back piece on. So if anyone has a hint for that, maybe you put it in the punch, I don't know. As you can imagine, the instructions from Temu weren't great. They weren't horrible, but they weren't great. There's that. I didn't put my bee on yet. Let's put the bee on. Keep my glue covered. And our ribbon. I cut off a fair bit so that I have a decent sized piece left over when I trim it, instead of all these tiny little pieces and having trouble tying it and stuff. I find it hard to tie a good knot or bow with a really, really small piece, so I cut it a little longer. And then when I trim it, I've got like a couple inches or an inch and a half or more left to use in clusters. So bringing that knot towards the front. I'll dab a glue. And then again, so that it is indeed a knot. I'm trying to pull it sideways, convince it to go sideways. And you could just put an angled end, but I do like the little tiny ribbon ends. I think they look really cute. So you got to remember to, if you're starting at the outside, like when you fold it in half, the folded part is the high spot. So if you're folding it, I'm going to do it down around here. If you're cutting from the fold, you want to cut an angle this way. See, now that's a usable piece instead of a tiny little piece. And then that's probably garbage. Well, yeah, garbage. I was going to say recycling, but it's really garbage. Okay, and then just a little inking is all these need. And this is the one I forgot to ink, so I'm making sure I get my ink all the way in, getting all any pieces that were white covered up. There was just a couple of spots that were kind of white. And then the back side, again, the ground espresso. I'm just watching a Gail Augustinelli, letting it play while I'm doing this video, and I just looked up at the screen, and there is an ad on the screen, and it was for Oreo cookies, Selena Gomez Oreo cookies. Okay, it's gone too far. All these flavors and celebrities. We have Ryan, is it Ryan? I want to say Ryan Gosling, but that's not right. Ryan Reynolds is doing Ryan's scrambled egg bowls at Tim Hortons right now. It's like, when is it ever going to end? All these advertisements like that. So I'm just inking the back because it was a little bit pale looking. Doesn't really need it. I didn't ink the backs of these that much. Oh, I put these little lacy bits on the back, so let's do that too. So we've got some music and the homespun fabric things, so let's do a little bit of this as well on these. Gotta ink this one. And this one I had already inked the printable, so I'm just doing it more on the edge of the card. So you see the difference? This is so obviously file folder. I just want to warm it up a bit. So the vintage photo in the center. Just a little bit of a mottled inking, just to, like I say, just to warm it up a bit. Oh, and that was the other thing that I was going to show you. Shoot. I'll show you anyway, it might still work. So I wanted a little bit of the lace on the back, and I want to also ink that lace. So I'm going to take the vintage photo, and I'm going to go just off the edge like this to ink that lace. And then you can just barely see, you could see it better before I ink the back. I'll show you on a piece like this so you can see what I mean. Give this a second inking. So when you do that, right on the back of your card, where you intend to put the doily, then you can see it. See? So then you can take your glue stick and just glue that area rather than trying to glue the paper doily. And I put quite a bit. It's quite globby there. And then I'll just set that into it and press it down, and then just sort of wipe the excess away, and it'll dry pretty quick. And I'm just going to pull that. Well, it's pretty even with the edge, so I'll leave it where it is. I'm going to cut it off flush down here. Easier to do from the other side, whichever side that is. And then ink that again with the ground espresso. So I'll do that again to see if that shows up well enough. I think I'll just, since I've got enough, I'll just do the whole side like this. So the vintage photo, and just ink it and let it go right off the edge of the doily. So you're really only inking sort of the tips of the doily, not right into the center. And then see, it even shows up still on there. So then you know where you want to put your glue to hold the doily down, and you kind of give it as much as you can. You shouldn't need much, if any, white glue. I always just give it a chance to dry, and if it is sticking up anywhere, I'll put some white glue under it then. Take off the excess. ink that edge. Ground espresso. And then on the other one, I put a little bit of a die cut flower in front of it. So let's see. Actually, maybe here is where I could add another bee thing this time, because I do have all these bee labels and I've been meaning to use some. So one that just says bee. This one says beekeeping. Oh, let's pretend those two are bee. Oh no, let's just put a bee there. I got one that was just a bee. And this one's just a bee. Actually, this one could go here, and this one could go here. And I will ink those edges pretty dark. Get rid of that pale green, which doesn't really turn my crank. And just glue that right in the corner. And here's where I will let it go pretty much straight up and down. Look how imperfect that bee is. I can only really see one full wing. I think there is another wing there, but there's no leg up here on this side. Same with this one. Let's try to use the tweezers. Gail was saying she has the same thing. She's never really trained herself to use the tweezers. I want it going up, I think. So that's just a little bit of interest on the back, and then I'll probably sign and date it. Maybe put my Thistledew Creations logo on it as well. And so now I've got 4. Memories, Remember, Adventure, and Love. I thought I might get tired of doing these, but I'm actually enjoying it more every time I do a set. So I hope you like them. I hope you'll try something similar. It's a great way to create some little gifts for family members if you're doing a family reunion, and something that they should appreciate, just that you used a family photo once they realize you didn't use a real one. So like, comment, share, and subscribe. Most of all, have a great day and happy crafting.